We welcome you to the 2009 Becker Law American Birkebeiner. The conditions changing just a little bit overnight, a little bit of new snow falling, and the athletes are getting ready, final preparations for this 55-kilometer or 54-kilometer event. We're going to be following the elite men's wave here today for the 2009 Birkebeiner. Along with me is Dennis Cruz. I'm Chad Salmola. We welcome you, and we'll watch the start here as we get ready to go. Men at the start here. Jenny, what are they thinking as we see the double pole take off? You see the black suits of the Team CXC, the yellow shoulders of the Saab Solomon team. What are these athletes doing in the start here? What are they thinking?
Well, I think one of the things they're concerned about is that little bit of fresh snow that fell overnight, because this course had some freezing and thawing and been tilled and was really kind of granular fast snow, and suddenly we've got some fresh new slow snow. So I think there's a lot of concern in the minds, have I got the right wax? Is how hard is it going to be out there?
So they're just starting out here. Remember, this is a long race, 54 kilometers. There's over 30 miles of ski racing ahead of these guys. And right at the start here, we see the black suits, and they are the hometown favorites of the Team CXC. But also mixed in there, you see the orange suit, a bunch of orange suits. Those are Team Rosignol, some red, white, and black. Those are Team Atomic. And then there's also the Saab factory team. Who are some of the people we're watching for here today, Denny?
Well, on that CXC team, we've got a number of really talented skiers. I think you should look for Brian Gregg, Brian Cook, Matt Leach. And from Saab Solomon, they've got the veteran squad. Leading that is two-time Olympian Lars Flora. And also on that team is a young gun, Tad Elliott, who's out of Durango. This guy is a combination pro mountain bike racer and elite skier. Mikey Sanat just won No Caymanon. He's a Dartmouth graduate. He's also on that Saab Solomon team. And then you've got some horses from Rosignol. You've got Mark Iverson, you've got Kevin Hochtel, who's known mostly as a sprinter, but these guys are going to be working hard to be at the front of what's the biggest race in North America.
Well, here you see now at the front one of the Saab factory competitors. It looks like it either is Tad Elliott or Mike Sanat. I believe it's Tad Elliott, the pro mountain biker from Durango, Colorado. Looking very strong. These are, again, the early stages of the race. And if you look at the track conditions, I think these guys were expecting a really fast track this morning and woke up to about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of fresh snow. And that's going to slow things down, isn't it?
Yeah, I talked to the chief groomer, that's Bill Pierce. He said they worked until about 2:30 in the morning. Unfortunately, that 1 to 2 inches fell after 2:30. So as you're looking at that track, you're not seeing, perfect comb corduroy. It's a little fresh snow there.
Well, this is Lars Flora now, as we see number 4. It was not Tad Elliott. Lars Flora, two-time Olympian, competing for the United States in both the 2002 Salt Lake Winter Games as well as the Torino Games in Italy in 2006. Behind him is a Fischer skier. You see that is in the black and lime green suit. I believe that is Dave Chamberlain running in second right now, but still things very early. Coming along the power line section, they're going to come into some very difficult climbs here pretty soon, where a lot of times you'll weed out the early competitors who are really not quite at that elite, top elite level.
Yeah, I recognize Chamberlain right in front. Chambo's out there in front. Also in a Fischer Craft suit. Off to his left is Colin Rogers, who's also having a great Super Tour this winter. He's currently the Sprint Super Tour leader. Lars Flora is the overall Super Tour leader, who's right behind Dave right now.
Well, we have to talk a little about that as we see the big wide power line now. These are some really steep climbs. You've got Chamberlain leading right up the middle, and out to the left it looks like Duncan Douglas, two-time Olympian in biathlon, but years ago he went to the 92 and 94 Olympic Games, but still competing at this marathon level as Douglas takes the lead now. The colorful suit skiing for the National Guard out on the left, a biathlete who also does some cross-country ski racing. And you see Duncan Douglas as he sets his foot down, is pushing some powder around here on the power line. Out to the right, we have a skier for the Matsus team. Colin Rogers, as we were saying, he's a sprinter. We got to kind of watch for someone like Colin Rogers or the Berkey winner from 2 years ago, Zach Simons, guys who can stay with this pack and maybe sprint at the end. But what do you think the chances of a group sprint in this new snow are, Denny?
Well, I think they were diminished with this new snow. If we'd have kept that fast track that we had groomed at 2:30 in the morning, I think we could have expected 6, 8, maybe even 10 guys coming down Main Street. This is going to be a little bit more of a slugfest on this slow snow, so it's the strong guys are going to have an advantage, and the Zach Simons, who would love to have him get pulled to the finish and then sprint by everybody for another Birkie win, I'm sure he's a little disappointed with this morning's conditions.
Well, we're getting some great pictures here. You saw the field spreading out along the power line. Duncan Douglas, number 19 now, he takes a look back, and he's got about an 80-yard lead on Lars Flora. It doesn't look like the pack is too worried about Douglas getting away this early. We're only at about probably the 3 to 4 kilometer mark here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, pretty soon we should be coming into the first food station at the end of the power lines, and then these skiers are going to go into the woods. And the trail is kind of big rolling hills here, but it starts to be steeper, shorter hills, but just unrelenting.
Now we see Douglas move to the left there. He looks like he's going into the snowmobile path of the camera crew. Why would he be doing that?
Well, anywhere that snow is compacted and something has helped take those sharp edges off the crystals is going to make it faster for these skiers, and they're going to be looking for every possible advantage.
Duncan Douglas, a doctor out of Honeoye Falls, New York, a father of 3, now leading the Birkebeiner early in the race, and he really looks like he's determined to just ski away with it right here, but boy, it's awfully early, and you can see the pack of skiers behind him kind of all getting in line, trying to catch that draft down that hill, but Douglas looks pretty impressive. What do you think of this, Denny?
Well, I think you were the one that mentioned to me, Chad, that if we went back in recent years and looked at overall results, he probably has, if that was a point system, he might be the points leader for the last 10 years in the American Birkebeiner, if not longer, Chad.
Well, he's rarely finished out of the top 10, and again, he's primarily has been a biathlete his entire life. He joined the National Guard after his most competitive years, but look at this. I mean, Douglas is just flying out here on the course, and looking back to see if anybody's going to go with him. And now just entering the woods. Where is this? This is about 5 kilometers now, or just heading into the woods off the power line?
You're absolutely right. In fact, you just passed the 5K marker.
So Douglas into a good tuck here, almost catching the camera crew. And look at the gap he's putting on the field already. Doesn't look like anybody's too worried. Nobody's really reacting. And this might just be bravado, I'm not sure. But here comes Dave Chamberlain now. He's going to take the situation back under control from Duncan Douglas. And you just hope there's Douglas. He's back out in front again. You hope this doesn't diminish his opportunity to possibly have a strong finish with so much race left.
You know, one of the things I'm noticing while I'm watching Douglas is that he is old school, because I guarantee you none of these younger guys who are chasing him will ever do the marathon skate technique.
Well, that's interesting. The marathon skate technique can be effective at times, but you just don't normally see it too much. But around these corners, it might be a very effective tool.
Yeah, and maybe it's just the case of the snow conditions, and with that snowmobile track that he's trying to work off and take every possible advantage, he's finding that letting one ski run and pushing off on one side is keeping, the resistance of fresh snow and its abrasiveness to a minimum.
But look at the gap Douglas has opened up here. It's a little bit scary. I guess if I was one of the favorites, I'd start getting just a little bit nervous. Now, if you don't know who Duncan Douglas is, then you might not care so much. But with his track record at the Birkie, I don't know that I'd be too comfortable in that lead pack, letting him get too far ahead, like out of sight. Right now, they catch sight of him every now and then, but he is really tearing it up here early in this Birkie.
Well, it looks to me a lot like a bike race where, we've got a flyer off the front and the peloton, so to speak, is just sitting in and saying, hey, let's let that guy hang out there for a while and just see how strong he really is, because we've got a lot of trail to still ski.
Well, one thing I'm noticing, Denny, is that there's nobody at this point in the course has skied yet. Douglas is basically breaking track, and that's got to be a disadvantage.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure there are guys back there saying, hey, Duncan, if you want to do all the work, that's fine with us, but here they come. They're closing, and I see those black suits of CXC making the bridge up there.
It looks like Brian Gregg now, and Douglas has dropped back now, and Brian Gregg from CXC in the red hat, followed by Matt Leach, number 7, in the black hat, both of them in the same suit. Look like they're talking to each other here, maybe strategizing just a little bit, as it looks like we're probably getting close to the 7 kilometer mark now here on the video, 7 or 8K mark.
Yeah, it could be down to that second food station, which is at what's called Timber Trail, but I guess they're not quite there yet.
Suddenly Douglas is off the back, and we have the CXC team taking the lead. Lars Flora now in the yellow shoulders and the black bottoms of the Saab factory team. Dave Chamberlain in the gray and green of the black hat. But it is starting to get spread out here as the Birkebeiner underway now at about 8 kilometers. Dave Chamberlain, your leader. Back with you at the 2009 American Birkebeiner, Denny Cruz, Chad Sommerlin, and Dan Roycroft now leading the Birkie at about the 9-kilometer mark. The lead pack still mostly together. Lars Flora marking Dan Roycroft at the front. We had an early leader, Duncan Douglas. He's back in the pack now. And Roycroft, a Canadian ex-national teamer. This could be one of the guys that everybody's watching today for the win.
Oh, I think so. One of the things I just noticed is as they went on a downhill section, Lars went to the front, so Fabien Blondeau's got to be real happy with that because he's obviously, at this part of the race at least, hit the wax.
Fabien Blondeau, of course, the wax technician for the Saab Salomon factory team, doing all the work. And now they've got the classic tracks of the classic race to use on the downhills. Roycroft still your leader in that gray Fisher team suit from Canada. Slightly different suit than the team from the United States is wearing. So Roycroft not really necessarily with teammates here with the FSX team skiing out of Canada, but still nonetheless, I'm sure they're going to work together if necessary. Now we have another leader here. It looks to me, who does this look? Is that Brian Gregg?
I would say with that red hat and black suit, that's got to be Brian Gregg.
And then right behind him, we still just a little too far away to tell. And getting into the big hills now, just to the north of, or is that to the west of 00 or east of 00?
I think this is just to the north of 00.
So the athletes now, the lead pack getting pretty close to the halfway mark of the Birkie. We're probably, sitting around 12, 14 kilometers now at this point?
That's right.
Roycroft's still at the front. He's feeling pretty comfortable. He's looking back, trying to see how big the group is, and it's really not that big anymore. A gap has opened up. We've got sort of that tadpole-looking lead group. So you were right, Denny. I don't think this is going to come down to a sprint at all with this new snow.
No, I'm surprised that this early, given the number of elite skiers that start in that first wave, that we're down to such a small group.
Well, we're not seeing a lot of Fisher suits anymore either. You've got, it looks like Dave Chamberlain probably in the middle of the pack there. Roycroft leading it in a Fisher suit. And then it looks like Brian Gregg running second, and probably, I think that's Matt Leach running third right now for Team CXC, the hometown team. And Roycroft seems to be pretty comfortable and happy to lead at this point. He must have pretty good skis as nobody comes shooting by him on the downhills.
Absolutely. One of the things, though, I'd be a little worried about out there is I've noticed that when Leach and Gregg go to the front, they're looking easy and comfortable. Like they're just checking how everybody is, kind of looking at faces, seeing if somebody's starting to get glassy-eyed yet. And those guys, I think right now, from what I can see, they're very comfortable at this pace.
Now we got a new leader at the front.
That's Andre Watt.
Yeah, out of Duluth, Minnesota, one of the Team CXC elite members. And who's that in the orange following him there? Number 14. Not sure who that is.
That could be Zach Simons. He skis for Rosignol. It could be Mark Iverson.
I believe he's number 2 because he was second last year. So 14, we'll have to kind of watch see if he figures into it. But it's Andre Watt right now from Duluth from Team CXC. And I'm seeing a red suit in there. We'll have to try to get a beat on who that is. I have a feeling that might be Wynn Roberts, a junior biathlete for the U.S. biathlon team and skiing for Team Modsus, but I don't think anybody would expect a young guy to be up there, so we'll have to confirm that, but he looks pretty good, whoever that bright red suit on the left is. And then we've got...
Well, Lars has come back to the front again, and that veteran of 2 Olympics, he's not going to let anybody get away at all possible.
Back to the front looks like Matt Leach again from Team CXC. So Team CXC really circulating at the front, but we're not seeing a lot of work from the Saab team besides Lars Flora. He's kind of all alone up there.
Well, he's got strong teammates in Tad Elliott and Mikey Sinat, and I'm just wondering if this is a strategy that Andy Gerlach is trying to tell his boys just hang in there and wait till we get near Hayward, or if they're actually feeling that this isn't their best day.
Well, I'm seeing in the middle of the pack there, I see Tad Elliott. He's wearing the red hat. He's almost a carbon copy of Lars Flora near the front. If you look and see the Saab factory team suit with the red hat, I believe that's Elliott now moving towards the front. Maybe he's sensing that Lars Flora could use a little help setting the pace up there. So, Denny, they're coming up on the halfway point now. You're starting to see 00 probably looming very close to these guys. pack's pretty small. Analysis so far of the race up to this point.
Well, I think it's sort of what we expected. With fresh snow, it's going to be harder than any of these athletes were really hoping for, and I think everybody's thinking about conserving energy. They're concerned that they don't want to bonk. And as you know, Chad, they've got a tough last 3 or 4K when they've got to go on to Lake Hayward and into the wind possibly. Here we're seeing guys getting feeds. These are not the normal food stations, the American Birkebeiner for, our citizen racers. These are factory representatives out there supporting their team members.
And what are they drinking, Denny?
Well, they've got a combination of different drinks. A lot of it's personal preference, what their stomachs can take when they're working this hard, but it's definitely energy drinks. I would be shocked to find out they're just taking water right now.
I'm pretty certain that number 14 is Kevin Hochdahl. That looks like his skiing style for Team Rosnell in the orange. Now we got Matt Leach making a little bit of a move here past double O. Could this be the race move this early?
Well, I'd be shocked. Matt is really strong. He's been coming on. He won the Moravasa at 58 kilometers. That's a pretty flat course. A lot of guys feel it's just unrelenting because you never get a downhill to kind of catch your breath and relax. But he looks good. He's looking back like, hey, I'm having fun out here.
Wow, he looks incredibly comfortable for having that kind of a gap. And I was just about to say before Matt Leach showed up way out in front that Lars Fleur has got to be the favorite right now. And we know Lars has had a little bit of a rough year. He's a two-time Olympian, but he's not having the best year ever. It would have it'd be really nice for him to win the Birkie.
Well, he did just come out of Stowe, Vermont, where he won both the skate and classic Super Tour races, but those were much shorter distances. And you're right, I know I've had a chance to talk a number of times with him. He's very frustrated right now. He feels like things have not been coming together well. He's had some sickness, and he would love to have a great race.
Well, we're seeing a little bit of a gap now. We see it looks like 4 of the black suits from Team CXC in the lead, and this is starting to look like a bike race. It looks like Team Quickstep stepping up to the front of the peloton for Tom Bonin, but it's the 4 CXC skiers now, and let's get this right. It's Matt Leach at the front, then I believe it's Brian Gregg. And then we haven't seen Brian Cook yet. That's Brian Cook in 3rd and Andre Watt in 4th. And they're all looking back, and they could go 1 through 4, but it's still a long way to go to the finish. Do you think they're really trying to make the move here?
I don't think so. I think this is more like you said. This is very much analogous to bike racing. These guys are going to go off the front. They're going to see who can bridge up to them. I'm sure much like in bike racing, they'd like to wear out some of the team leaders for Saab Solomon and Rosignol, because they're going to have to chase. They don't want to let 4 CXC guys get away.
Well, this is quite a shot for Team CXC as we're well past the halfway mark. Now, Matt Leach leading the competition. He's got teammates in tow. Brian Gregg running 2nd, Brian Cook running 3rd, and Andre Watt running 4th. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 for Team CXC. Halfway point in the 2009 American Birkebeiner, and Team CXC is still at the front, although the group of 4 that we saw at the break leading and had a gap has now been caught again by the rest of the top field. It looks like it to be about 15 to 20 skiers in there. The 4 Team CXC skiers that we've seen, a couple of Saab factory team members as Matt Leach gets a feed. So the tactics should start playing into the race now as we get past the double O point, shouldn't it, Denny?
They sure should. These skiers now should have a pretty good sense of who they have to watch for. I think they've had an adequate time to kind of check each other out. And so now it's going to be a question of what's going to be the strategy as we start to think about how we want to be set up for the finish. Well,
Matt Leach was just alone there, and he's now being chased down by the Saab factory team members Lars Flora, and it looks to be Tad Elliott. Figured out that the orange Rosignol skier is Josh Smullen, who finished 16th in last year's Birkie, so he's having a good one. And for a second there, I thought it might be John Bauer from Hayward, but I'm not seeing Bauer up there.
Yeah, John's moved to Hayward, and he's a 3-time Olympian. I think he holds more national titles than any other skier in U.S. Nordic history. And I know John, this is his home race. This is his home course. So even if he's not in the best fitness, he's going to be out there.
Well, now we have a new charge at the front, and that is Dave Chamberlain out of Caribou, Maine. Chamberlain skied for Bates College back in the 90s, He and Justin Freeman, Chris Freeman's older brother, really made waves at Bates College when they were NCAA All-Americans back in the mid-90s. But look at the skis of Matt Leach on that last shot. They look really good. Brian Fish must have done a great job with their skis, because there's no doubt that Leach crept up on Chamberlain there in that last downhill.
Well, you know, Chad, from your own experience, and I, as a citizen racer, have this. When you've got fast skis, it just gives you that extra ounce of confidence. You know the skis are working for you. Oh, yeah, there you are. Look at that.
You can see it when you slingshot around somebody like that dramatically. Leach has a clear advantage over Chamberlain. Look at Chamberlain is actually pulling. Leach is tuck skating.
You know, and that's got to be depressing for Chambo. He's got to be thinking, man, what am I going to do now? I've got to work that much harder to catch up with these guys.
Well, not only that, but everybody knows that Leach is having a great season. Leach, of course, third place at the U.S. National Championship in the short event in the 10K freestyle. Leach, not a very solid classic skier. He needs to kind of sit, have his best days on the freestyle days, but definitely known for more of a marathon skier. To be 10th in the or third in the 10 kilometer at U.S. National, that's quite a feat for Leach.
I think it's going to give him a lot of confidence. You know, between that and winning more, he's got to come into this American Birkebeiner feeling like, I can beat anybody.
And he's in position to do it right now, that's for sure. We're probably somewhere in the high 20 kilometer mark at this point. We're probably about 28, 29 kilometers.
I think that's a pretty good guess. I'd say that's about right where they are.
So the race kind of starting to wind down. It looks like the field's starting to get a little bit strung out, and now could this be the move of this Saab Solomon team? We got Elliott and Flora at the front. Now, Tad Elliott is a really interesting character. He's still a junior, or maybe a first-year senior. He's only about 20 years old, but Elliott was put on this Saab Solomon factory team when he denied a spot on the U.S. ski team. He wanted to continue mountain bike racing and decided not to be a member of the U.S. ski team this year or the development program, and he's skiing very well. And now another person we haven't seen all morning. Who's this?
That's Mikey Sinat, Dartmouth graduate, 1 year out of college, living and training in Sun Valley, Idaho. Winner of the No Cayman and Classic race, but a really great skater. Also a good sprinter. If they let that guy stay with the pack when they get to Main Street, they may regret it.
Sinat also an NCAA All-American. That means he was top 10 at the NCAA championships when he skied for the Big Green of Dartmouth. He's a great guy out of Sun Valley, Idaho, and it's good to see him at the front of the pack, but it's still Matt Leach at the front, and you got to start wondering, is Leach the strongest guy in the field if he's so comfortable at the front? I mean, his skis are clearly running good, and he almost seems the class of the field right now, but still not we're getting down well past the halfway mark, and you almost got to wonder is if Leach is going to try to make a move here, or is he waiting for teammates? When you got Lars Flora, though, on your back, two-time Olympian, it's got to make you a little nervous, doesn't it?
It does. I would think right now, though, these guys are kind of in cruise control, because I think early they want to kind of separate themselves from the wannabes, and now it's just they've got a long way yet to go, and kind of just maintain as much energy as possible and start to think about what the strategy is going to be after you start those last couple of hills near the end of the trail.
Let's talk a little bit about the courses. We see Leach starting to put a little bit of a gap on Mike Sinat. Denny, tell us about the course up to this point and from here to the finish.
Well, it starts right out with a lot of climbing up to what we call the fire tower, which is the highest elevation on the course. Then it's kind of downhill to Double O. Then we have kind of gently rolling hills as we move south towards Hayward. But as you get down there, we have a couple of good climbs. The first of these we call Bitch Hill, and that's because it's really tough. And then you cross 77, another big climb, and then you come with a great panoramic view of Hayward. From there, it's downhill, but you still got grueling Ks across the lake.
Well, I thought maybe it was because there was a dog kennel at the top there. So we'll watch for the barking dogs near the finish of the Birkie. So is it safe to say at this point that the most difficult terrain is behind them?
I would say so, except two what could be decisive climbs. But as you can see, once again, Andy Gerlach, Saab Solomon guys are going to the front saying, hey, we are the team to beat.
Team CXC now a little more subdued back in the pack. I still see the orange suit trailing off the back a little bit of Josh Smullen. And in that red suit is Wynn Roberts from Battle Lake, Minnesota. Unheralded ski town, that's for sure, but Wynn putting it on the map and doing very well to be in this group. But it's mostly Saab, Solomon, and CXC skiers, with one Rosignol skier in there, one Matsu skier, and then looks like Duncan Douglas is still at the back of the group there, that early leader, and that's kind of surprising. I thought maybe that early fly off the front might have tired him out and might have cost him his race. Coming through a photo opportunity here and some more feeding, as it looks like Tad Elliott grabs a drink.
I think that was the gravel pit food station, and that's about 9 kilometers south of Double O.
So we're running roughly in the low 30 kilometer range now.
That's correct. Yes, that is. They cross a little forest road there, as you can see, and now they have a pretty good climb coming up from the forest road.
Another feed here.
Right, some team support out there.
And look, Duncan Douglas back to the front. Is this deja vu or is this a clip from earlier in the race? Douglas back to the front now, number 10, and that tells you he was, or is it number 10? I'm not sure where he was, but I know that Duncan has been in the top 10 several times. I mean, he was doing this back in the early 90s, like 91, 92. Duncan Douglas has had top 10s in this race, and I'm not certain of his age, but I think he's about 5 years older than me. He was an old teammate of mine on the U.S. Biathlon team. I think he's probably running 42 or 43 years old, if not a little bit older, and this is quite a feat for him to continually go to the front and force the pace.
You know, one of the things I think we're finding is that these endurance sports, you can be at a top level well into the late 30s and even early 40s.
Matt Leach now back at the front at about the 30, probably the 31 to 30, somewhere between 31 and 32 kilometers, and he is forcing the issue. This is starting to splinter the pack, it looks like. Duncan Douglas is going to be the only respondent to Leach's push here at the low 30 kilometer mark. Still about 22, 23 kilometers to go for these guys, which is not, that's another hour on the trails, but still, this is a big gap to be seeing happen here with guys like Lars Flor. I wouldn't feel comfortable with knowing that Leach was on the podium just a few months ago at the National Championships and won the Vassal Open and making the move.
Minutes ago, I kind of thought CXC, they had done the best they could. They'd wasted all their energy early in the race when they were, as a team, dominant at the front. And then all of a sudden, Matt just comes out of nowhere, and look at that gap he's opening up.
Well, he looks fresh. The thing about Leach right now is that it doesn't look like there's anybody in the field who looks as good as him. So I don't know if this is the move or if he's testing the water to see if anybody's going to come with him. But right now, Matt Leach strongly in control of the American Birkebeiner. Back at the 2009 American Birkebeiner, it's still Matt Leach at the front of the field at 35 kilometers. Still people nipping at his heels, but Leach looks good, Denny.
He sure does. This is a young man who I think was 55th in his senior year at the Minnesota State Championships. Went to the University of Minnesota, just skied on a club, no collegiate coaching, no collegiate racing, and has a degree in engineering. Came to the CXC program when we started it 3 years ago. And was sort of, just a walk-on. But he's just a great guy. In fact, there's great camaraderie, but I bet if you did a popularity poll among the CXC skiers, he'd be ranked first.
Well, he's pretty popular right now at the front of the American Birkebeiner. Looks like Dan Roycroft from Canada in that gray Fisher suit, the Canadian Fisher team suit, is the only guy really looking to give chase. Duncan Douglas still hanging tight, though, but this move is really pressing the field.
And it's, as you said, he looks relaxed. He looks like he's having fun. He looks comfortable. He looks like, I'm just going to test these guys, see if anybody wants to come with me.
Well, as far as I understand, Matt Leach has never been accused of being the most effective technician in either skating or classic, but he's looking very good today. I mean, this could be his day, and he's really having a breakout season.
He sure is. I think, though, Coach Fish might be asking himself, is he going too soon? Is he going to work too hard? Because if that pack catches him as they get near Main Street, I'm not sure he's going to be, well, first, he's not a great sprinter, and second, he may have worn himself out.
Well, it's looking like a definitive move. Whether it is the definitive move for Matt Leach, we don't know. But it's looking like he's going to force the issue to the finish. He's feeling well, but like we said, if he gets caught, it's probably not his chance at winning the American Birkebeiner may be over. And here the pack's still chasing Matt Leach. He's not out of the woods yet, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. If this was a bike race and you look back and you see guys in hot pursuit, you'd wait for him and think, well, why do all this work out in front by myself? But Matt, he's a horse, and I know he would there's nothing he'd love more than to win the American Birkebeiner. Growing up in Minnesota, this is the race that I think all skiers in the Midwest point to.
Well, Leach just grabbed a bottle from himself there. He looked like he's carrying one on his back, and that was probably some necessary, he's probably feeling his glycogen levels get a little low there. Is that what he's doing?
Yeah, absolutely, and he's feeling pretty confident because you don't see most of these guys taking their own feeds. You know, they want to be as efficient as possible, so they're waiting for a hand up as opposed to just trying to drink from their own bottle.
Well, Denny, I noticed he's making beautiful marks in the snow. It's like virgin powder out there, but you really don't want that in a ski race, do you?
No, I think most of these guys like a hard track where they can't even see a ski mark on that corduroy.
So Leach doing the bulk of the work here, going by. He looks pretty comfortable as he looks at the cameraman, and he's actually kind of looks like he's got a smile on his face. So there you get a side shot of Matt Leach, very powerful skier and quite muscular for a cross-country skier, I must say.
You know, and one thing that we might mention is the filming is being done by two of the people he works closely with, Yuri Gusev, the executive director, and Scott Wilson, both of CXC. So I think they've got to be excited to be watching Matt come up beside him, product of a program that they worked very hard on for several years now.
Well, if you look back to the right of the screen, it's a pretty big gap now to the main group. It looks like Roycroft, and I believe that is Brian Cook now in third place for Team CXC. We haven't seen much of Brian Cook all day, but there he is. He was there when the group of four was at the front. He was there, but then he just was kind of out of sight. So now we've got CXC in first and third, and we've got Fisher team skier from Canada, Dan Roycroft, and nobody else in sight. And you know, if somebody doesn't react soon, I think this is going to be your top three.
Well, unless the strategy by Coach Fish with CXC is we're going to send Matt out and we're going to make people work to chase him. You know, Brian Cook comes from a ski pedigree. His brother's on the U.S. ski team. Everybody in that family, including mom and dad, are avid skiers, ski racers. And so, you know, maybe Cook's just going to sit in and see what happens. And when they catch Leaps, if he doesn't have the juice anymore, we're going to see Cook go off.
Well, I think you got to watch Dan Roycroft, too. He's a good sprinter. He's late in his career, but he spent a lot of years on the Canadian national team. And, you know, you definitely don't want to underestimate Dan Roycroft. He can easily take this victory yet, and he's well within striking distance of Matt Leach if he's flying a little too high. It's, you know, I got to say, if I was a coach, I'd be a little nervous right now too. Even though you know Matt Leach is in good shape, he's a long way from the finish yet. He's probably got another 35 to 45 minutes of skiing ahead of him.
Absolutely, and you know, you've got two guys who've skied a lot, but they're just a year or two out of college and basically being on well, Matt didn't even ski collegiately. Brian Cook from Northern Michigan had an outstanding collegiate career, but you're up against a wily veteran in Dan.
So the rest of the field looking like they're going to let Matt Leach go. I don't know if they just can't respond or if they just don't take the search for Matt Leach seriously. I can't believe that they wouldn't take it seriously. He's got to be considered one of the favorites here today, even though he's relatively new to the podium this year, winning the Mora and third at the national championships. But boy, this is looking like a pretty strong move by Matt Leach, and you just got to hope for his sake that he's got enough gasoline in the tank to make it to downtown Hayward.
I don't think any of these skiers take for granted anybody. They check, what their results are, and Matt's had, it was either a 6th or 7th last year, the year before a 12th, and they know that even though maybe in 5, 10, 15K races, they're not going to worry about him yet, but once it comes to a marathon, this is a guy not to be taken lightly.
The gap continues to grow between Leach and the chasing two, Roycroft, and his teammate, Brian Cook. I should say Leach's teammate, Brian Cook. And now to the point where we almost see a one-man race happening where they're not getting into our pictures. And Leach is drinking a lot here. We've seen him feed now twice in a fairly short amount of time. Now, this is a feed station. Where are we here, Dave?
We're at Mosquito Brook, and these guys who are hoping to have a great result today better start worrying, because right now, he's only got one climb coming up from the brook, Bitch Hill, and a climb after 77. There's only really 3 substantial hills that he's got to worry about cramping or bonking, and then he's just got to get across the lake, and he's going to be on Main Street.
Well, we're getting these great close-up pictures here, and that should tell us just what's happening. There's nobody else really challenging, so they feel comfortable getting close to the leader. And at this point, I've got to say that this is a legitimate move. This is the real deal here in Matt Leach. He could take this all the way downtown, much like Ivan Babikov did last year. And there are the chasers. They're still relatively close. I would guess that's about a 20 to 25 second gap he's got on him.
You know, if you look at Matt, though, he still looks relaxed. Great extension. His upper body is relaxed. He doesn't look like he's worrying about cramping or tightening. He looks like he's having fun.
Skis continue to look good. That's got to make Coach Brian Fish feel good. If you can see this video, as you see some of the fans here cheering on Matt Leach. And, you know, he's not getting away. So it's not quite as definitive of a move as we were thinking it was across those turns.
You know, Chad, not to be politically incorrect, but those were the bitches of Bitch Hill we just saw.
Is that really what they call?
That's what they call.
Well, there you go. It wasn't a dog kennel after all.
No.
So, with just a few kilometers to go, it's Matt Leach out of the solo lead. Coming up next, the exciting finish of the 2009 American Birkebeiner. Matt Leach in control. Solo lead right now with just a few kilometers to go. And Denny, we thought this was possibly just a test of the waters, but he's managed to maintain his lead all the way from about the late 30-kilometer marks.
Well, he's overcome all those last hills, and right now he just has to worry about maintaining that momentum on a totally flat trail as he approaches the lake and onto the lake.
And there you see the gap. Nobody in sight. Matt Leach comfortably in the lead as he comes off of Lake Hayward and I'm sure he can hear the crowd roaring right now downtown as he comes just about approaches the final turn, and he'll see that finishing stretch that's so famous. 35 other champions have seen it in the past. Now it's going to be Matt Leach's turn as he's going to take home a win for Team CXC, and this has got to feel great.
Oh, I'm sure he's just, in fact, I hope he's not just delirious, but he can really enjoy the moment.
And it's Matt Leach down Main Street of Hayward. He's going to be the 2009 Birkie champion, from 55th in the state meet as a high school skier to Birkie champion. It's a Cinderella story in the Midwest. And now there's a race for second. We have Brian Cook leading out Dan Roycroft. Now, Roycroft has been known to be a good sprinter, but he's a little older these days. Can he hold off the charge of Brian Cook?
Well, I'm sure he's happy. Because right now you see him, he goes out from the draft of Cook. He comes up beside him in this last 100 meters, ready to make his move.
And Cook takes second spot from Roycroft. Now it's a race for fourth and fifth. You got Brian Gregg and Duncan Douglas. Brian Gregg getting the better of that duo, and so Gregg goes fourth, Douglas goes fifth. Andre Watt coming in to finish sixth. A great day for CXC, and Lars Flora just kind of beaten down in those last 20 Ks.
Yeah, and here comes Mikey Sinat out of Dartmouth, skiing for the same Saab Solomon team. I think those Saab Solomon guys are thinking, what happened with CXC today?
Well, we also have Dave Chamberlain. Look, he's shaking his head. That last half of the race, I don't know if skis slowed down for other people. Here we have some more finishers. This looks like Josh Smullen from Team Rosendahl. A couple other guys who snuck in there. Amazingly, Wynn Roberts finished in 7th position from the U.S. Biathlon Junior team. Here's Colin Rogers coming in to finish along with Eli Enman. And Tad Elliott just broken by his first Birkie.
Well, he's 20 years old, so he's got a great future ahead of him.
Well, if there's one thing that the Birkie House is, we see more finishers here in the top 30 approximately. There's one thing, there's always another Birkie.
Absolutely. That is the fever, and we've got so many skiers. Well, we have 3 guys actually who skied all 36. One who, Dave Landgraf, is skiing out of the Elite Wave on his 36th American Birkebeiner.
Well, still some Elite Wave finishers here. These guys probably all right around the top 50 still. And here come our leaders in the women. It was Holly Brooks, Rebecca Dussault, and Christina Strandberg charging to the finish. And Laura McCabe, who won 10 years ago in 1999 in that final group. And here's Evelyn Dong, who will come into place 6th. It was a great women's race, separated by inches between Holly Brooks and the winner, Rebecca Dussault.
CXC member Gus Kading from Marquette, Michigan, edged out Nordic legend Bjorn Dahli. Dahli's an 8-time Olympic gold medalist.
How did it go during the race?
CXC had very, very fast skis, and I was a little antsy to kind of get a group of the CXC guys away and have a CXC train out there to try to pull away all together.
So when did you decide to make a move?
I knew there was a slight gradual uphill at 33K, and I surged there a little bit and expected a response, but I kept skiing away, and everybody was kind of looking at me like they thought I was crazy to go then.
How does it feel to win the Birkie?
It feels really good, unbelievable.
We had unbelievably fast Solomon skis, waxed with Brian Fish waxing with Toko. It was unreal. They were so fast. It was just great. Matt took off, about 20K to go, and I kind of was sitting in the pack, kind of watching to feel out who was strong and who wasn't strong. And then Dan took off, and he got a gap, and I was waiting and kind of waiting to see who was going to pull it back together. And when I saw that some people weren't feeling that strong, I decided that I would try to bridge across to at least Dan. And then when I bridged across to Dan, I knew that I had Matt up there, so I was like, well, I can sit behind Dan because I don't need to chase down Matt, because if he wins, it's all the same. And then a little later, Matt got a little bigger gap, and I came and took some pulls and then kind of skied for second.
Did you have thoughts to actually try to catch up with Matt or no?
I did. Dan and I got pretty close at a couple points, and I thought if I could bridge to Matt, we could work together, and we could probably end up getting 1 and 2 as well, just with the numbers advantage playing the team card. But as it ended up, Matt was just too strong. He was just skiing unbelievably.
I woke up this morning and I had some doubts. It's hard lodging with all your rivals, so to speak. They're my teammates and I love them to death, but you're just sizing yourself up against them every moment of the day. Who's strong, who's weak, what's going on. So it wasn't until about 35 kilometers I really started to believe this was possible. Once I got my Coca-Cola feed, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this.
How long did you stay together?
And welcome to the finish line, Colton McKenna.
The 4 of us got away like 20, 25 kilometers, and we're clear of anyone, and we just kept changing up the lead, and it was quite obvious that no one was going to make a big break, and it was going to come down to a sprint.
So how does it feel now, coming back 4 years later and winning the Birkie?
It's amazing. It's a dream come true. I don't think it's really hit me yet because it's huge. Just for what I've put into the sport this year, I really only got to start training in August, and I've put in such limited hours, and so it's just amazing that I could pull off a win of this magnitude.
My friend brought me here yesterday and just kind of showed me Main Street. So this is my first Birkie, so I had no idea what to expect. She showed me Main Street, and yesterday I looked down and I never would imagine that I would be the first one to turn the corner. So, shock, and then, oh no, I'm being chased. It was so loud, it was kind of a tunnel of noise, and a pretty amazing feeling, and no one likes to lose by 1/10 of a second, but I'll take it.
Did you have any tactics through the whole race today?
All my tactics, I was just trying to conserve energy, just trying to relax, and skiing with those ladies, and just trying to have a good time, and not waste energy, and I was just kind of hoping they didn't pull any big team stunt on me. I felt a little outnumbered, 3-1.
Compared to last year's race, we were pushing the pace a little bit harder, and that proved itself pretty early, because I think already around 20 kilometers there was just 4 of us. Being on the podium is always great. I've always had a tough time at the Birkie until last year when I finished second. Today it's hard not to be a little bit disappointed because I was so close, but at the same time, Birkie podium is great. It's always great.
Well, I think if we could have scripted a race for the American Birkebeiner, we couldn't have had a better ending.
Well, that does it for the 2009 American Birkebeiner. For Denny Cruz, this is Chad Somla saying so long. We hope to see you at the 2010 American Birkebeiner.